All right, so the last section is solving equations. All right, so I have a couple steps for you that you need to kind of pay attention to. First thing that you want to do, right, is you want to look at the problem and see what could x not equal, okay? So what we're going to be looking for now is x equals 5, x equals 10, something like that, all right? So right off the bat, you want to look at your denominators and say, okay, what could x possibly not equal? So if you get that as a possible answer, it won't work, all right? So just kind of keep that in mind and kind of write it off to the side of the problem. All right, so again, you want to figure out a common denominator, and you're going to multiply everything by that common denominator. All right, you're going to solve, and then dancing is optional. All right, so for the first one, what could x not equal? -1 and -5/4. Okay, so when I solve the problem, right, when I get an answer at the bottom, if either of these values show up, I have to get rid of them. Okay? All right, so you can either, what would our common denominator be? Right, so what you can do, if it's just fraction equals fraction, you can actually just cross multiply if you want. Right? So we have 3 times 4x plus 5, and then you have 9 times x plus 1. Right? So if I did the same thing, if I multiplied the left side by 4x plus 5 times x plus 1, the x plus 1s would cancel, and I'd be left with that. If I did it over here, the 4x plus 5s would cancel, and I'd be left with 9 times x plus 1. So before we were kind of just looking to put two fractions together. Now we're just trying to figure out exactly what could x be some number. Right? So you get, what, 12x plus 15 equals 9x plus 9. So what does that give me? 3x equals -6. So x is -2. All right, so obviously that does not match either of these, right? So we're good to go. So -2 is my answer. You subtract 9x over here, and then subtract 15 from 9. All right. Okay. 3x plus 7 over x minus 5. Okay. So the only value that x could not be for this one would be what? 5. Okay. All right, so what would my common denominator be? Right, it would be 2 times x minus 5, right? So I can multiply that on both sides. 2 times x minus 5. All right, so when you do that, right, this here is going to cancel that there. And you're just left with 2 times 3x plus 7. And then on the other side, what are you left with? Right. Right, because the 2 and the x minus 5 cancels the 2 and the x minus 5. So we got 6x plus 14 equals 5x plus 17. So x would be what? 3. Good with that? Does that make sense? No, you do not. Right. Yeah, so you just want to make sure, like before you start the problem, that you're writing what x cannot be because of the restriction in the domain. And then you just want to make sure that that number is not that number. Yes. Just another way to do it, really. We could have cross-multiplied and got the same answer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, now for C, I can't really cross-multiply because I have 2 terms over here, and I have 1 term over there, right? So this is where, again, you want to multiply by your least common denominator. So what could x not be for this one? 0, right? So what would your least common denominator be here? 4x, right? All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to multiply this side by 4x and the right side by 4x. So we got 4x times 5 over x plus 7 over 4 equals negative 9 over x times 4x. Okay, so when I do 4x times 5 over x, what do you get? 20. Good. And then 4x times 7 over 4, you get what? 7x. And then negative 9 over x times 4x would be what? Right, good. All right, so if you subtract your 20, you get negative 56. So then x is negative 8. And that is not one of our restrictions, so we're good. All right, so more of the same. Again, you want to try and get rid of your denominator. So right off the bat, what could x not equal? just positive 3, right? So what would I need to multiply on both sides? So what is your common denominator? X minus 3, right? Right. You can't see that? Is that better or no? No. No. How about white? That's better, obviously, right? Everybody can see that, right? X minus 3. Okay, so the x minus 3's cancel, right? And you're left with 3x. And then x minus 3's cancel, and you're left with 2x plus 3. So if I subtract my 2x on both sides, I get x equals 3. But what's the problem? X cannot equal 3, right? Okay, so this is what's called a extraneous solution. Right, so that's like when you come up with the answer that you shouldn't be coming up with. All right, so because I'm not allowed to equal 3, and I came up with the only answer coming out to be 3, right, this would be just no solution, would be your final answer. All right, so there's really no value of x that's going to make both of these rational functions equal to each other. All right, so that's kind of why you want to write down, before you start the problem, what my x cannot equal. All right, letter B. What would I have to multiply here? Or before I do that, what can x not equal? 7. And then what is your least common denominator? 2 times x minus 7. Okay. All right, so I got 2x minus 9 over x minus 7 plus x over 2 equals 7. Okay, so when I do 2 times x minus 7 times the first term, right, x minus 7s will cancel, and you're left with 2 times 2x minus 9, right? And then what about the second term? What do you get? So when you do 2 times x minus 7 times x over 2. Good? And then the last one, you get 10. All right, x minus 7s will cancel. 2 times 5 gives you 10. All right, so I got 4x minus 18 plus x squared minus 7x equals 10. So what is that? That is x squared right, so you always want to put everything to one side, and then we're going to need a factor. So factors of negative 28 that add up to be negative 3. Positive 7? Positive? Right. So my two solutions here would be what? 7 and -4. All right, now, are either one of those one of my extraneous ones? 7, right? So my only answer here would be x equals 4, -4, sorry. So you're not getting how we went from here to here? Okay, so kind of you just have to take what you're multiplying by and then each term separately. So if you have the first one, right, you're going to take this and multiply it to that, right? So I have 2 times x minus 7 times 2x minus 9 over x minus 7. Right, now what do they have in common? Right, so they cross out, and now you're just left with 2 times 2x minus 9, right, which is what we have there. And then you would do the same thing again. You do 2 times x minus 7 times x over 2. Right, 2 times x minus 7, x over 2. Right, now what cancels this time? Right. So that 2 cancels that 2, and you're left with x minus 7 times x, which is what we have. And do the same thing again with the 5 over x minus 7. All right, so if you guys can't come up with the answer for C,